Well, hello everyone, and welcome to MCLE This Week. I am your host, MCLE program attorney Bruce Richard. Today, I am excited to get a chance to talk to a true expert in AI for legal organizations, Brendan McSheffrey. Brendan, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the Kendall AI Project?
Sure. Thank you, Bruce, and thank you, MCLE, for hosting and having me. First, I'd like to start off by saying I am not an expert in AI, and I'm not sure actually anybody is. I work with a number of data scientists over at MIT and a lot of AI entrepreneurs. And AI is changing so fast, it's hard to call anybody an expert right now. But what I do have is a background in building systems for machine learning, and I am a longtime entrepreneur who has launched 6 ventures in 9 markets, and I'm a builder. I've built a lot of things, and one of which is today myself and my partners and team. We've launched something called the Kendall Project, and it's the idea of bringing and bridging the knowledge base of AI that we have in Kendall Square to other parts of the state of Massachusetts, the Northeast, and beyond, because we have a unique perspective on how to use AI, how to build AI, and how to apply AI in real world situations. So about a year ago or so, my colleagues and I looked at each other and said, we kind of know how to do this. We really ought to engage industry and share with them what we know about how to identify and prioritize where to start with artificial intelligence, which seems to be the big challenge that a lot of companies are having, which is, where do I start?
What are you finding? Like what are you suggesting for companies as far as where to start? Are you finding that there's a standard, or is it something dramatically different for each company?
That's a good question, and it is dramatically different for each company. Our suggestion and our methodology, we call it the Kendall Framework, and the Kendall Framework is a problem-driven innovation methodology that encourages people and organizations to build at the rate of demand of their problems. So if you're going to deploy AI, deploy it on your top problems, not somebody else's. Don't just follow a roadmap that some advisor tells you, or something that you read, or some random acts of AI that your team is doing, but rather follow the problems that solve the problems that your company needs to solve in order for it to create value. And problem-driven innovation is what we're really promoting within the Kendall Framework of where to start with artificial intelligence and where to use AI. Although there are some low-hanging fruit things that come up in just about every workshop we do, which are things like, how do I get ChatGPT to sound more like me when it writes stuff, and how do I get ChatGPT to collate documents, and some sort of simple things that we often share post-workshop with the community of, oh, sure, that's an easy thing to do. You just do it like this, X, Y, Z.
Right. Okay. We know that there are a lot of lawyers out there who still have a lot of reluctance as far as using AI, that are, I don't want to get too far into the ethics aspects this early on, but there's a lot of folks who are just nervous just generally. So I was going to ask just sort of throw in a handful of questions, sort of from the perspective of the attorney who's looking at it, but isn't quite sure if this is something they should be getting into yet, or how they should be jumping into it. So I had a quick question just sort of off the start. So if you're talking to a lawyer at a networking event, and they tell you that they're skeptical of AI generally, or that they've got, it freaks them out a little bit. What can you say to convince them that it's technology that they really can't afford to be ignoring at this point?
Well, AI is unlike any other technology that I've worked on in my whole career, and I lived through the entire waves of the internet, the waves of mobile, the waves of social, and several generations of computer programming languages. And AI is entirely different because it's arguably the most powerful industrial automation technology humans have ever created. And it's going to automate minutia tasks all over the place, and including in law firms and within legal work. And I'm not going to point out exactly which processes it will automate, but it can automate an awful lot that lawyers can do. And attorneys, just like everybody else, um, shouldn't be afraid of it. We sat around in the 1980s in fear that robots were going to take all the jobs out of Detroit and destroy the auto industry. Well, it's turned out that if you don't have industrial automation in automobile production, you're out of business and you can't control quality. So we think the same sort of waves are going to happen here. It's AI is not going to destroy all legal jobs or change every legal job, but it is going to be something that is just a tool set that attorneys of all types use for all sorts of applications. The biggest recommendation we make to people is use it, give it a try, just start using it. There are very few tools that are easier to use than ChatGPT, Anthropic, Perplexity, and other AI, publicly available AI models. It doesn't mean you put private data in it and you immediately use it for everything, but start using it for some things. Start using it for search, start using it for testing, and get yourself comfortable with using it.
So if someone has never used AI before, is ChatGPT the first step, or would you recommend a different set?
I think that one of the ironies is, ChatGPT 4.0 only came out on the market 25 months ago, 2 years ago, November. And it's a really new technology. And ChatGPT 3.0 was around for a couple of years before that. And the leap was really astounding. But since that came out, Anthropic, Meta, Google, the number of foundation models, which is what ChatGPT is, OpenAI's model, the number of foundation large language AI models that are on the market that you can choose from today, you can choose just about any of them. And for most applications, they're a commodity already. But ChatGPT is readily available. But if Microsoft Copilot, which is built on ChatGPT, is readily available to you, go ahead and use that one. If Google's tools are readily available to you, go ahead and use those. It really doesn't matter. For most applications, large language models are already becoming a commodity.
Right. If I'm looking to pick one or the other, is ChatGPT going to give me a significantly different response or produce a significantly different work than, say, Copilot?
Sometimes, and that sometimes depends on how the AI has been trained. And what I mean training is what sorts of data and context has been provided to the model prior to you asking the questions through prompting. So, for example, if Copilot has been trained by your organization on all the types of contracting types that your organization uses, it's obviously going to give a better response than ChatGPT public version that's been trained on none of your private data.
Right.
So it all depends on what the AI model has been exposed to prior to you using the prompting or what you've added into the prompt.
So the better response, I guess, then is pick one and stay with it, because it's going to get better for you as you develop, or is it something like you try it, if that's not working for you, or you can shift?
So we recommend to everybody to go out and spend the $20 a month per head and get the OpenAI Team Edition. That's what we use.
Mm-hmm.
It takes several months of using it and training it and continuous process improvement with it for it to get to the point where it really understands who you are, what you care about, what you're working on. so that it shortcuts a lot of your effort. But the first couple of weeks of working using a paid version of any of these tools, you spend an awful lot of the time going, oh my God, this AI is just an idiot. It doesn't know anything. Well, it doesn't know anything because you haven't trained it on what's important. But today we actually use three different models, public models, all the time. We use ChatGPT, we use a team edition.
Mm-hmm.
And our team edition is getting astoundingly good. The more we train it, the more we continuously improve the context that it has access to. We also use Anthropic, which doesn't give necessarily 100% different results, but it's much better seemingly to us in programming languages and technical tasks.
Okay.
And then we use Perplexity, which is a value-added platform that you can find at perplexity.ai. We use that for most search functions. So we use a bit of everything because, yes, they do give different responses. And it's a little bit like if anybody in the audience is old enough and remembers the days when we had Ask Jeeves and Alta Vista and all these search engines prior to Google coming along and showing us that there's a better way to do search. But for right now, they're all good at slightly different things, and I think that's going to continue.
Okay. So is there a difference between using the AI and training the AI? Or is it just using it repeatedly and it's learning from that?
So training AI is, let's step back for a quick second.
Mm-hmm.
AI models are really nothing more than autocomplete. And we've had autocomplete for about 15 years.
Right.
And in 2017, a team of engineers from Google wrote a white paper called "Attention is All You Need." And what they were arguing is this thing called the scaling hypothesis, and that you can make autocomplete turn into artificial intelligence if you add enough processing power. Well, along comes NVIDIA with their GPU chips that are now available to create that processing power infrastructure. So they took autocomplete and expanded it by 1 trillion times, billions and billions of times. I don't actually know how much larger it is, but it's a huge factor larger than what it was at the time. And that scaling hypothesis turned out to be true. And so the way that those models work, at one point in time, the LLMs, large language models, didn't know things like Massachusetts is a state in the United States. So they had to be trained on that. And training is done in a text-based fashion, just like chatting. It's no different than training a new employee. So when you train AI, what you're doing is you're telling it what to pay attention to. So going back to attention is all you need, the original philosophy, you want to be able to tell the large language model and have it store the data in its vector database correctly, because large language models recall information using something called the nearest neighbor. So Massachusetts' nearest neighbor is United States. So it recalls that information based on what's near it. So when I train AI, I will often give it data. For example, my writing persona and the writing style that I like. I will upload that to ChatGPT in our private edition and tell it, please add this to my memory. And it adds it to my memory. Anything that's important to me. For example, a really simple example is in our memory, if ChatGPT knows we are always polite, because I trained it to say we are always polite, it added it to the memory. So anything that's important to you that you think it needs to know, you want to train it. We have 5 rules in the Kendall framework for training artificial intelligence. And rule number 3 is that AI needs to know the rules of the game in order to play. And so you need to train it on the rules of everything about you and your organization. If you're an attorney and you write contracts a certain way, well, you need to train the AI on that. Or if you read agreements in a certain way, or you care about certain things, you need to train the AI that that is important before you ask it to analyze other things.
Okay. Um, I know that when I've been using AI, and when I initially used AI, it was literally just, prompts to get it to do, to get it to perform the task.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until far too embarrassingly long before I realized when it spits it out, just ask it to edit it again, make the
Right.
changes in it, reiterate it so that it is learning. And then the next time I went to use it, it was producing something that was more along the lines of what I was looking for. But it's interesting to see, how it learns and where, what the next steps prove to be. So,
Bruce,
um,
that is a fantastic hack for everybody to know, which is that ChatGPT will continuously improve itself along with Anthropic and Perplexity and the other ones. So if you go to ChatGPT today and don't know quite what you want to ask it, you can say, "I need a prompt for analyzing an M&A agreement," and it will give you a prompt for analyzing an M&A agreement. And then you upload the M&A agreement and you say, "Run the prompt that you created against this M&A agreement." So allowing ChatGPT to write its prompts for you is a capability that most people never think of. And then the idea that if it doesn't give you exactly what you want the first time, you have to do continuous improvement. It's never going to be 100% perfect. So you have to improve, iterate, iterate, iterate.
right. Yeah. I mean, as simple as something is just letting it, when I do this task, I'm going to ask that it's always in the future tense.
Mm.
And then every other time afterwards, it's coming in future tense, which I know doesn't sound like much, but it means that I'm not having to go through and change it to future tense. It was just something that was just, and I appreciate that we're talking AI. It does a whole lot more than this, but it was just sort of those initial steps in the training aspect that was something that I was really impressed with. And like I said, this is very early stage stuff. So
Advance your practice with the MCLE Online Pass. For one monthly subscription fee, you can access everything MCLE has online: live and on demand webcasts, ebooks, forms, checklists, and more. Start your free trial today at mcle.org/onlinepass.
how do you use AI at work and at home?
That's a good question. I use it at work all the time, literally minute by minute. It's open on my desktop right now. It's open on my desktop all the time. I use it. I use it for research. I use it for script writing. I use it for one simple ways is prior to this podcast, I had it write a bunch of bullet points based on the Kendall framework that we might want to bring up. I had prior to any meeting with a client, I have it analyze the client's needs versus what we're doing and give me a list of questions that we should be asking. So doing meeting prep, doing anything that's a simple task along those lines. Once the AI model is trained, they tend to be very, very good at it. But the home one came up recently. We partner with a terrific organization called Custom GPT, which creates what's called a RAGS model. A RAGS model is a independent, privacy driven AI model that the foundation models have no access to that data set, but can process the data set, providing AI power against a private data set. So I created an AI model about a year and a half ago as a test with every PDF of the instructions for every appliance and every piece of electronics in my house. And so now I have a little AI model. I created a little shortcut to the app on my phone.
Right.
So I never have to look up my instructions to my oven, to my Apple TV, my my whatever. And I thought at the time that that would be just kind of a lark and it would be something I wouldn't use a lot. Well, it turns out I used it twice over the weekend. There's virtually an unlimited number of usage. And that's one of the reasons that we created the Kendall Project, is to help people identify where to start and to not
Right.
be afraid of starting. We did the hard start for you, so we can help you through using the Kendall framework to identify exactly where you as an attorney should test and use AI.
So I know this is kind of a loaded question because I suspect I already know the answer to this, but if you're looking at ways to to streamline the work that you're doing, if you find, well, for example, if I can see where there's an option in Word to improve what I'm doing that we're not currently using, does it make sense to adapt that, or is this something that I should be looking at? Okay, do I want to go through the steps to make this work, or should I just be looking at skipping that entirely and like, how can AI do this instead without having to go through all of these steps?
Well, obviously, in a lot of organizations, there's IT policy that might get in the way of using tools that either the
Okay.
work stream allows for or doesn't allow for. But we're advocating to all of our members is to experiment, test, try. But in that particular use case, not only do I have ChatGPT open on my screen right now, but I also have Perplexity open on my screen.
Mhm.
So anytime I'm using a software tool where I run into a place where I can't find the instructions, I don't look it up at Microsoft or try and find the menu, find the solution buried in a
Sure.
Microsoft menu anymore. I go right to Perplexity and it gives me the answer faster. This is all, at the end of the day, a lot of the types of use cases that we're encouraging people to test with are really about compression of time.
So where do you see AI in 3 years from now? I mean, we've already talked about ChatGPT, and it seems like every 2 years we're seeing a new iteration, and the one from 2 years ago made a significant leap. Are we expecting something similar in the next 6 months, 12 months?
Well, right now, ChatGPT, it's December 2024, and they're releasing 12 releases between now and Christmas, as a promotion. And each release they've done so far has been pretty stunning. So it's hard to predict. A year ago, right now in January, they released OpenAI released Sora. Sora is its video editing or video creation tool. I happened to be at the MIT Media Lab for the AI for Impact class that day. And one of the leaders from the Laboratory for Computer Science was doing a presentation on the fact that Sora had come out the night before. And his reaction to it was, oh my God, this is 2 years ahead of what we thought. And so it's hard to predict where it's going to be when even some of the smartest computer scientists in the world continue to be stunned at the pace. This is outpacing, if anybody knows of the growth of computer technology, it's outpacing Moore's law. It's just happening at an astounding rate. So where's it going to be in 2 years? I can't even come close to predict, but I do know the use cases aren't going to change very much. The use cases are still going to have to be based on what problems do you need to solve as an attorney, whether it's solving a problem for a client or solving a problem for internal operations. That's where you should be focused. So our Kendall framework, we created a methodology that's actually based on the greatest hits of industrial engineering of all time. It's based on lean manufacturing, root cause analysis, design thinking, agile, scrum, and problem curation, with the idea of creating a standardized way to help people with real jobs, whether you're the receptionist at the law firm or you're a managing partner, and everybody in between should be able to use a framework to identify where and how to use AI. And because it's going to change so fast, it's more important to have a way to think about it today than to try and anticipate what is it going to be like 2 years from now. My goodness, it's only 25 months old, and philosophically, it's only 7 years old.
Right.
So this is a technology that it's truly hard to predict exactly what it's going to be like. But what we can tell you is we have five rules, five principles for creating AI excellence. And rule number one is problems are AI fuel. Start with problems. Start with the problems you have and you want to solve. Number one,
Right.
problems are AI fuel. Number two, AI is a team sport. Don't do this alone. Random acts of AI across your law firm are not going to accelerate your business the way that you want it to. So you really want to bring people together and solve the problems that all of you have, as opposed to a bunch of one-off. Rule number three, we talked about it earlier, which is AI needs to know the rules in order to play the game. You have to teach AI the context in order for it to understand the problems that it's solving. Rule number four is you assemble AI like a truck. AI has more in common now in terms of day-to-day usage with quality control problems for manufacturing than it does traditional computer programming. Insofar as if you have a huge AI problem that you're trying to solve, you're going to do it one little piece at a time. You're going to control your inventory of data that you give it. You're not going to give it all the private data. You're going to give it just enough data to solve the problem. And then rule number five is continuous improvement is non-negotiable. You're always going to be continuously improving how you use AI. And it is an impossible thing. These five rules will help anybody who's trying to understand and how to use AI through this massive period of change. We know this to be true because these five rules underpin most of our industrialized economy.
Right. So as far as the training aspect, is this something that's just going to be too onerous for, say, the solo practitioner or the 2 and 3 lawyer firms, where it feels like, if I had time to do the training, I would hire somebody else and train them in what I'm, to fill in a lot of the stop gaps. Is that how is that addressed, or is this something that where the training ramps exponentially as we go along?
It ramps as you use it. And as a solar practitioner, and people that are afraid of it, look, I am not a computer scientist. I have no degree in computer science. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a builder. I've been hiring technology engineers and software developers for years to do these things for me. And I'm finding myself personally using these tools to do technological tasks that I was never capable of doing before. So if I can do it, you can do it. From a perspective of how long and the energy of training, it takes a little bit of time every single day. If you use it a lot, I'll take a simple example. I used ChatGPT to help complete a LinkedIn post for me the other day, and it included a phrase that I would never have used. And I cut and pasted that phrase and gave it back to ChatGPT and said, please add to my writing persona, never use this phrase. And it added it to my memory. So going forward, it won't add that phrase.
Right.
So it's little bits of training all the time. That's the continuous improvement part.
Okay. Brendan, I want to thank you for joining us here today. I've already learned a little bit more. So,
Bruce, if I could add just a couple of things.
sure.
One is all attorneys out there should know AI is easy. This is the easiest technology just about that I've ever used in my entire lifetime. It's easier to use than Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint. It's certainly easier than managing a bazillion different versions and drafts of a contract that's gone back and forth with a client 50 times. So the notion of this is difficult or too difficult for you, I implore all the attorneys out there, give it a try. Try it. Just keep testing it and hack at stuff. You will learn, and you'll find a way to use it that will increase your productivity. I could argue that my personal productivity, which was always very high to begin with, I'm probably 2 to 3x more productive just because I'm using it the way that I am. And I think it's really important that we all look at these tools as a productivity gainer to grow jobs, especially here in the Commonwealth in the Northeast. And it should be and can be. So, AI is not going to take your legal job. An attorney using AI might take your legal job.
Well, excellent. Brendan, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. For the folks at home, this was an opportunity to talk with Brendan McSheffrey at the Kendall AI Project. If you've got more questions, I'm confident that Brendan will be thrilled to hear from you, and I'm certain that we can, or that he'll be able to help you along on your path with getting your office more integrated with AI. So, Brendan, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Bruce. This is terrific. We look forward to doing more events with MCLE next year.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone. Bye.
The MCLE This Week podcast is a production of Massachusetts Continuing Legal Education in Boston, Massachusetts. For sponsorship opportunities, email us at podcast@mcle.org.